Black people gained entry into most foreign countries when they were enslaved in the 17th century. They worked in different organizations in various divisions, from mining to agriculture. More slaves were imported because the job required a large number of workers. After some time, the slaves started to make up a larger and larger portion of the populace. Most of them stayed in the country once the slave trade was abolished, while only a small number fled to neighboring countries. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to the African Web channel so you won't miss out on our next video. Also, press the notification bell. Many non-African countries have a sizable black population, making up a sizable portion of such countries' overall population. The countries with the highest black population are the subject of this video. Number 10, United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is one of the largest countries, but unexpectedly, a sizable portion of its population is black. Out of the 64 million people living in the country, black people make up around 2.4% of the population, or more than 2.4 million people. Black residents of the United Kingdom do not all hold British citizenship. Some people immigrated to the United Kingdom from different countries, and their citizenship or immigration status may differ. However, black people who were born and raised in the UK are British citizens, either by birth or by naturalization. Greater London is home to most black British people who are descended from slaves. Black people who are descended from slaves who were freed in the 19th century are referred to as the Old Diaspora, while those who came to the country voluntarily as laborers or students are known as the New Diaspora. Black people can be found all over the United Kingdom, particularly in well-known places like London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, and Bristol. But some places have a higher population density because of their histories, societies, or economies. Number 9, Mexico. There are about 126 million people living in this country, of whom about 2.5 million are black. This represents 1.98% of the overall percentage. During the time of the slave trade, blacks entered the country. Not all black people in Mexico with African origin can claim to be Afro-Mexican. The true number of people in Mexico who are of African heritage is larger than what was reported by official statistics. The Afro-Mexican population is not fairly dispersed over the nation and is concentrated in a few areas, including the state of Veracruz, the Oaxaca region of Guerrero, and the Costa Chica region. Some blacks may work in the agriculture and fishing industries, which are well known in these regions. In recent years, there has been an upsurge in awareness of the Afro-Mexican population. The Afro-Mexican community was officially recognized as an ethnic group by the Mexican government in 2015. The visibility and understanding of the Afro-Mexican population have risen as a result. Number 8, Jamaica. This shouldn't be a surprise for many of you because you regularly see them excelling in sports, particularly athletics. Afro-Caribbean, black, or people of mixed races of African heritage make up about 78.3% of the entire population. The country has a total population of 2.8 million people, of which it can be estimated that black people make up roughly 2.4 million. With a sizable population of African heritage, many of whom are descended from Africans who were brought to the island as slaves during the colonial era, Jamaica is known for having a considerable African population. The majority of Afro-Jamaicans are descended from slaves who were involved in the transatlantic slave trade. The Akan, Ibibio, Igbo, and other ethnic groups in Ghana, Nigeria, and the Republic of Benin where most of the slaves came from. Jamaica's black population is spread out across the entire island, with notable concentrations in cities like Kingston, Montague Bay, and Spanish Town. Number 7. Venezuela. In Venezuela, 4% of people self-identify as Black or Afro descent. The 100,000 African slaves who were transported to Venezuela during the transatlantic slave trade are the ancestors of the majority of Afro-Venezuelans. Historical data indicates that the number of Black people in Venezuela has increased over time due to factors like immigration from other nations, population expansion naturally, and marriages with other ethnic groups. Although the Black population is spread out across the country, some areas have a higher concentration of Black people. The coastal areas of these territories, particularly those in the states of Falcón, Sucre, and Zulia, as well as the Caracas capital, are included. Number 6. France. The first Black people arrived in France in the 16th century when they were taken as slaves by French traders. Today, France is one of the top nonpartisan nations with a sizable Black community. Over the past few decades, population growth has been steady. The National Institute of Statistics and Economic Studies in France estimates that there were approximately 1.1 million Black or African individuals living in France in 1999, and that number had climbed to about 2.2 million by 2020. The number rose to somewhere between 3 and 5 million in 2023. A mixture of natural growth, immigration, and changes in self-identification can be attributed to the rise in the number of Black people. In particular, people from North and West Africa traveled in large numbers to France during the post-World War I era, either in search of safety or to assist in the fighting. This also influenced Black population growth. Although Black people are spread out across the nation, specific regions, including Marseille, Saint-Denis, Guadeloupe, Martinique, and Réunion, have higher concentrations due to historical, social, and economic reasons. Number 5. Colombia. Despite the widespread racism in Colombia, around 36% of the population is of African heritage. African slaves brought over by the Spanish during the colonial period, which began in the early 16th century, were the first Black people to settle in Colombia. When slaves who had escaped from their captors started forming communities, the Black population of Colombia gradually increased. Palenques is the name of their independent community. While some Afro-Colombians also have Native American and European ancestry, descendants of slaves comprise most of this population. According to a survey, the Black population of Colombia has not significantly changed over the past few decades. Approximately 10.6% of the nation's population lived there in 2005. This represents a little improvement above the 10.4% found in the 1993 census. Over 11 million Afro-Colombians exist today. In coastal communities like Chaco, Valle del Cauca, and Buenaventura, Afro-Colombian people are concentrated. Number 4. Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic is a country where 8% of the population are self-identifies as Black. With an estimated 8 million or more Afro-Dominicans, this is one of the top non-African nations. The majority of Dominicans are of mixed African and European origin, however, some are also of indigenous or other ancestry. The number of Black people has dramatically increased. The nation's history of colonization and slavery is to blame for this rise. Large numbers of Africans were kidnapped by Spanish soldiers during the colonial era, and many were sold into slavery. Throughout the post-independence period, Afro-Dominicans' population growth hasn't been a break. Due to the abolition of slavery, the nation's economic growth, which has created job possibilities, and the rise of Black consciousness movements with a growing pride in Afro-Dominican culture and tradition, there has been an increase during this time. As a result, the Afro-Dominican population is currently present in most of the country, from deep inland places like Cochuy and Monte Plata to coastal communities like San Cristobal and San Pedro de Macorís. Number 3. Haiti. Afro-Haitians are people with African ancestry who live in Haiti. Over 11 million people live in Haiti, a Caribbean country. The majority of people in this country are Black. Haiti is one of the countries with the highest population density in the Caribbean. It is also regarded as the most populated country outside of Africa, with most of its citizens being Black. There are several reasons behind Haiti's large Black population. The country's history of colonization and slavery can be used to explain this. On the island, there were a lot of African slaves. Immigrants from other regions of the Caribbean and African nations have added to this population. The Black population of Haiti is concentrated in a tiny area due to the country's comparatively small land size of around 27,750 square kilometers. Due to the limited land area, urban centers like the capital, Port-au-Prince, have a high population density. The majority of the inhabitants of Haiti who identify as Black come from West and Central Africa, particularly Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, Angola, Sierra Leone, Benin, and Senegal. Number 2. The United States. The Black population in the United States of America varies significantly by state and location. The Black population has always increased since Black people were brought to the United States during transatlantic slave trade. Many Black people volunteered to move to the country, increasing the population. Statistics show that the proportion of African Americans has fluctuated over time. In the United States' southern states, particularly Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, and Alabama, Black residents can be found in large numbers. With 3 million people or 14% of the state's total population, Texas has the highest percentage of Black people in the country. It is also the second most diversified state in the U.S., with less Black population than states like Montana, Wyoming, and Maine. Approximately 13.6% of the U.S. population, or over 40 million Black people, live in the U.S. today. Number 1. Brazil. This is the non-African nation where Black people are most populous. Although they are involved in various activities throughout the country, their distribution could be more balanced. More Black people are living in some locations than others. A lot of Black people live in northeastern states like Bahia, Maranhão, and Pernambuco. Southeasterly areas with lower Black populations include São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. In contrast, there are fewer Black people living in Brazil's south and central west. The smallest percentage of Black residents in the nation resides in Santa Catarina. Black people first immigrated to Brazil after slavery was abolished in 1888. The majority of them settled in the nation. In Brazil, there are more than 55.9 million people of African heritage. As this video has demonstrated, several causes, such as historical migration patterns, colonialism, and slavery, as well as the both voluntary and involuntary diaspora, can be credited for the existence of nations outside of Africa with sizable Black populations. Communities founded by African immigrants and their descendants can be found in various nations, and some of these communities have developed into sizable populations. As a result of the slave trade and the forced migration of Africans to these areas, many nations in America and the Caribbean have sizable Black populations. The variety of Black experiences around the world highlights the tragic legacy of slavery and colonialism and the global impact of Africa's rich cultural history. Are you a Black person who lives in one of these countries or another country? Let me know in the comment section below. What do you think about our video? If you enjoy this video and want to hear from me again, hit the subscribe button before you go. Thank you for watching.